Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. I'm really excited about today's guest, Scherrie Prince. She's an attorney, coach, and speaker, and she's got a fantastic story about resilience and how she made it. Today's topic is going to be all about AI and estate planning, bridging the gap, entrepreneurship, legal strategies, and I'm really excited to have Scherrie on the show. So welcome, Scherrie.
Thank you so much, Chris, for having me.
Yeah, kind of set the stage, your background, looks like you're an attorney, what you do now, and I'm really excited to delve into the combo.
Okay. Well, I grew up on a farm, a 150-acre farm with my grandparents, and my mom had passed away when I was about 16. So before coming to live with my grandparents, I lived with a couple of different relatives, and it was different because at 16 years old, as a teenager, your world is shifted. And so my mom was 36 when she passed away, no long-term care plan, nothing in terms of a designation of guardianship for her estate. And so I had to learn the hard way about why those things are important at an early age. And so just fast forward, I kind of reinvented myself a couple of times before I actually went to law school. And at 30, I went to law school because I was so passionate about making sure that other people had access to just knowledge and tools and resources that my family didn't have.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So you kind of turn your pain into your passion, which is kind of talking about, and you're also, you're the podcast host of Play Bigger, Faster podcast. Be sure to check that out, follow it. And then, so kind of talking about, you talk about this idea where you became an entrepreneur and estate planning and creating a lasting legacy. Talk about that.
So early on, I guess around 21 is when I started my first business. And it was undercapitalized. I did not do a good job about vetting my partner. And so I learned so many lessons. So part of what I do estate planning, but I also help entrepreneurs build a moat around their business and personal assets. Because at that time, my personal assets were not protected. We pretty much had a handshake. We started a business. It did not go well. And so today I teach individuals who, are looking at entrepreneurship as a career on how to protect themselves. And so now with the rise of AI, that is a perfect tool to help entrepreneurs because everybody wants to know, how do I get started?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. We're going to talk about AI in a little bit, which I really love. No conversation recently would be amiss without talking about AI. But so the thing is, kind of talk about this building a strong foundation and legal protections for entrepreneurs.
So the first thing that you have to do before you can even look at your business, you have to make sure that your personal finances are in order and that you actually have a plan for your business. Now, mind you, I did not say a business plan, but you must have a plan for the business. And yeah, because my first business was undercapitalized. I just figured, hey, I have this thing that I'm good at. I'm going to start a business. And that's really not enough. So getting your personal finances together so you can actually focus on the business and not worry about coming home and your lights are off because you do not have enough money to cover the business expenses and your personal expenses. So part one of that is personal finance. Part two is looking at the different types of businesses with an S that may be available to you. So I like to start people off with a 3-entity structure. If you are in business and you raise your hand and say, yes, I have 3 businesses and they're all in the same LLC, you are not really in business. You are on your way to a very bad outcome. From a legal perspective, I really like to show people how you use 3 basic structures as a foundation to build a business.
Yeah. I was recently I was talking to another entrepreneur and we were talking about business partnerships, but she was talking about basically prepare for divorce, prepare for death, prepare for taxes, and prepare for dismemberment, all those 3. And, so what you were talking about is, have an exit plan, nothing lasts forever, make sure you see the exit signs. You're looking at it's like kind of a navigation, looking for that exit. So talk about legal strategies every entrepreneur should know.
Okay, and so you kind of touched on some of those. The main thing is exit. When we talk about exit, it's not necessarily that you have a bad outcome. You may sell your business. And so, that may be your retirement plan. So, how do you set your business up in the beginning for an exit strategy? That exit may be litigation, it may be bankruptcy. There are all sorts of things that are considered exits. And like Stephen Covey said, begin with the end in mind. So I
Yeah.
like to approach every single client with an exit plan in mind. And I keep those things just kind of at the forefront so that we're prepared in the beginning.
Yeah, I love that. And kind of as kind of as a funny joke is, I was in med school and then I saw like just burnout starting and like kind of managed care. And I was like, I got to start preparing for the exits, regardless of, if I practice or not, some one day I have to get out. So this next question is kind of talking about is what's interesting is as we go into this age of AI, I have a lot of questions. So first thing is, will AI replace? They're saying that AI is going after the white collar jobs now, lawyers, doctors, accountants, all these. So what are your thoughts on that?
Now, this is just my opinion, and I'm kind of proud of my opinion,
Yeah.
but AI is just a tool. It's just a tool. And with any tool, it still needs an operator. And I think that the people that are more successful are the people that have found a way to use the tool to help their firms, their practices, their agencies to be, more efficient and to provide more value to the people that they serve.
Yeah, and then kind of as a follow-up question is because a lot of especially healthcare and especially legal, I was watching this one episode, kind of and it was talking about where the AI can actually do better job than like paralegals in a few years. It's gonna, the question is whether or not you're gonna need like paralegals to do it where the AI can do it. And for example, like in medicine, intake can be performed by an AI or a scribe, and all these things. So you're right about the tools. What do you think about, but you do agree that the industries will be changed, right? So you have to kind of stay abreast and learn these tools. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree. But like with anything, it's kind of what, the input you put in is the input that you get out. So when I first started just kind of playing around with ChatGPT, it took me a lot longer to get the result that I was looking for. But now I understand prompts. I understand what I need to tell it to get me the output that I need. So I think that you're always going to need people. And especially if you have a business that's built on customer service and you actually interface with the public, you're always going to have a need for people.
Yeah, like the AI cannot, at least at this point, replace human creativity, human judgment, kind of these higher order. And you're always going to need, you're not going to have a robot doing, open heart surgery on its own. That's not going to happen, at least in our lifetime, because basically there's talking about AI scaling both in quality. So you're talking about the inputs and the prompts, but also once you get the quality, the outputs that you want from the AI, then you can basically scale it in quantity. Talk about those two things.
Definitely. And I'm going to do it from the aspect of estate planning. So there are so many people that don't know where to start. So I've developed some prompts to help people get started. And one prompt may be, my name is Scherrie. I am X number of years old. I work as a doctor at a hospital. I have X children. I am married. And so you put certain prompts in and say, what do I need for my estate plan? And so this gives you an idea for where to start. What documents do I need for my estate plan? And so those are some things to get you started. There are other prompts that I can share with you in terms of what to ask your different professionals, because asset protection is kind of like raising kids. It takes a village. So, I tell people, make sure you have a good insurance agent, a good attorney, a financial advisor, and, definitely a banking relationship. So, and part of talking to those people, you don't just go and sit in their office and say, hey, help me. I can help you use AI to ask them the types of questions that fit your situation.
And then the next question is kind of talk about, how do you tailor your strategies to meet the unique needs and circumstances of individual entrepreneurs and businesses using ChatGPT? Because kind of like that, you put in the prompt, but it's kind of like a generic general. So how do you tailor to make it more personalized?
I start with a decision tree. And, usually I'm working with entrepreneurs. So we start with the estate planning portion first instead of the business part. But I do ask business questions. Are you brick and mortar or are you an e-commerce business? Because that's going to, change the advice that I give you. Do you have a public facing company or do you desire anonymity? If I had Kim Kardashian promoting my brand, I want everybody to know Kim's promoting it because she's a big name and people buy the things that Kim endorses. And so we kind of go through the decision tree, and that's how we come up with the prompts.
Can you share some key indicators that a business owner may need to reevaluate their current asset protection strategy if they're at risk or anything like that?
Definitely. You definitely need some metrics, key performance indicators, things that for your industry are benchmarks or baselines. So are you at, above, or below some of those industry standards? Do you have standard operating procedures? Because if you don't have these things in your business, that is the first indicator. Like Scherrie, I don't even know what that is. Well, therein lies the problem. If you don't have benchmarks, and two, you're not checking benchmarks, or three, you're uncertain what benchmarks are altogether. That would be the first indicator.
Yeah. And you said the first. Are there any other indicators that you could share with the audience?
Oh, definitely. If you are not on a regular basis treating your asset protection plan like you treat your annual wellness visits. So, usually people are going to the doctor once a year to get checkups. You should be doing the same thing as it relates to your financial health. And asset protection is not just all financial. Like I said, with all those players at the table, you should be meeting with those people at least once a year, and preferably in a group setting. And Zoom is so easy to do now. So that's another indicator. Two is if you have things that are happening in your business that are not predictable, you should not be surprised that there's a shortage of income and you find out about it a week before notes are due or, big events happen. So being able to forecast, if you're not forecasting, that is another indicator.
Yeah, I love that. I know because I know you got a busy schedule ahead of you, and kind of talk about as a closing, kind of what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who may not realize the critical importance of asset protection, and kind of talk about end with building a strong foundation and how people can contact you and follow you, etc.
One, and I know this is going to sound so typical, one, have a plan. It does not have to be complex. Your plan may just be to get all of your team members, your insurance person, your banking person, and get them in a huddle. So that may be part one, just getting that huddle and identifying your assets, because before you can protect those assets, you have to know what they are. So there's like this exercise that I take people through where I help them identify, one, they identify their assets. Two, they inventory the assets so they have a record of what they have. And three, they improve the classification of those assets. And by classification, is this something that you purchase for your business, but you use personal income? Or is this something in your business that should be labeled for personal use? So once you do those things and you huddle a team, that's when you can really put a plan together. And guys, do not be afraid, because it does not have to be expensive, but you minimally have to identify those things and get that to your team.
Yeah, I love that. And I kind of estate planning, tax planning, and asset protection are key. These are kind of like, you want to hire a professional. Do not do this on your own. It's almost like hiring, someone who didn't go to medical school to operate on you don't want to do that. So all of Scherrie's resources, how can they contact you and follow you, look at your work, etc.?
The best way to do that is to go to my website, www.scherrieprince.com. That's just scherrieprince.com. And I have a webinar that I do that when you actually leave the webinar, you have a blueprint for how to get started. Now, mind you, what is a blueprint? That's the plan. It's a baseline plan, but you still have a structure to build. So I would love to get started with anyone who'd like to go and register for that webinar. And it's totally free. There's no cost.
Yeah, I love that. And I love people who do webinars. It's really an amazing tool. For all of the audience out there, let's thank Scherrie for providing her valuable expertise on here and talking about asset protection, AI, how to get started. Be sure to visit all of her podcasts, her social media, and sign up for a webinar. And thank you for coming on, and thanks for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.